There's been a lot of talk about criminals and crimes committed. These group of people that have been interrupting the sessions talk about this, address this as calling Mexicans, Central Americans illegals. The only crime that was committed here on this continent was in 1492 when Europeans invaded our shores in the East Coast. They're going to try to interrupt me. There's one thing that Mexican descents are not taught in their home or at school. That we're the 5% of the descendants that survived the biggest genocide in the history of humanity. And they're still persecuting us into our cities, our sanctuary cities. Where we flee white supremacy is also in Mexico. The criollos, the Spaniards that stayed there, that corrupt our regions. And these are the type of people that support that. Now they wanna chase us around, but we're not afraid of them. Since we're the 5% survivors, the descendants of the survivors, why would we be afraid of these people? We're still here. I'm a descendant of the Nicantlaca. My people came from Zacatecas. They migrated. They're not immigrants. We've migrated this whole continent for thousands of years. And for 500 years, to this day, to this second, these last 18 seconds left, we're still being persecuted by these Nazis and their little pets that they carry around in a leash that they call people of color. They're sellouts to their own people, and they're a disgrace to humanity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Irene Montantes. I'm an Indigenous woman, mother, and human rights activist, and a news presenter for KPFK Radio. I was born and raised in Tongva territory, which is now called Los Angeles due to European settlers who came into this land in the late 1400s, 1492 to be exact, who murdered millions of natives to this land. It is important that we do not forget about that history. The purpose of my presence here today is to stand in solidarity with the undocumented children and for the indigenous community in Huntington Park, and to stand up to the groups that are harassing community members. I'd like to bring up facts that anyone here can educate themselves with. True history from Tiano to the Cree in Canada, to indigenous peoples in Argentina, and to the Tongva lands in what is now LA, indigenous peoples are the only ones who can claim title to land, not foreigners. If Americans are to understand the true history, then maybe, just maybe, we can get past this notion of racial superiority. The Institute for Social Research at Columbia University looked at prejudice as a mass psychosis, fixable by certain measures of re-education. The disease metaphor of racism has given a century and a half of anti-racists hope for a cure for prejudice. But it doesn't work, and in the process, it gives too many people a way out. The American Psychiatric Association contests extreme racism as a mental health problem. The psychodynamics of extreme racism were all but ignored until the 1960s. It's time for politicians, community members, leaders, and all closed-minded people to examine the resistance to accepting extreme racism as a symptom of a serious mental illness.
I'm Citlali. I went to Cudahy Park Elementary School. I went to Huntington Park Gage Middle School, Huntington Park High School. I'm very proud of all of you because what hurts them is that we are the future. All of you sitting there are the future. We are the demographic population. 50 years, we will be the majority. Like my sister said, let's remind everyone that this is Tongva land. I am an indigenous person of this land. I am not illegal. I am not raza. I am not a communist. I am an indigenous person who is defending her people against the racial terrorist attacks of white supremacy. Let us remember that the use of patriotism is giving continuous rise to terrorism. We have the cases of what happened in Portland, Oregon. We have the cases that are happening in our own communities where these people feel the right to come into our communities and terrorize us. The violent attacks are growing. These people are threatening violence against our communities. Whether we have papers or not, we are being scapegoated. We are being targeted for being the indigenous people of this continent. it is important to remember legality. They want to talk about legality. These same people would be arguing to you why slavery should still be legal, because slavery was also a law, and that was immoral, it was unjust, and it was terminated. So all of our people walking on our own land are being called illegal without realizing that the history and the process of the legalization of Europeans was at the hands of white supremacy and the genocide of 95% of our people. So I stand here from the Mexica movement as a prior member of the Huntington Park City. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing. We must continue to defend our communities. We must continue to expose the white supremacist hate group ties that these people have, and stand up and proud, because we are proud to be here. We know the history. We have righteousness on our side. We have history on our side. I commend everyone who stands here, regardless of your ethnic background. You have righteousness on your side. We have to come together, fight white supremacy in every city of our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyrus? Cyrus?